Hey YouTube, this is one knowing Damian Moody, and I'm back again with another live video. And in today's live video, I decided to read another book. Um, I was thinking about sticking with like maybe one or two books, but I don't know. To be honest, I'm trying to find something to catch people's attention because I'm thinking that by reading a book about Trayvon Martin, it would get a lot of people attention. And then when I go look at the views of the videos where I have read the book, I don't get that many views. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a YouTube thing. I don't know if a lot of people that subscribe to my channel don't care to pay attention to my videos. I don't know what's going on. So 1 minute I'll be thinking maybe I should just stick to one to two books and read either or I switch it up every now and then. So far I have been I stopped the R. Kelly book, which is Solar Coaster, The Diary of Me by R. Kelly. Then I started reading Jill Scott. No, I was reading Jill Scott, The Moments, Minutes, Hours. I read some T-Bot's book, Thoughts. Then I was reading Trayvon Martin, Rest in Power, The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin. Um, so I just wanted to switch it up a bit, and I figured, hey, maybe I'll read My Sister Tommie, The Real Tammy Terrell by her sister, Ludie Montgomery, and Vickie Wright, and it's a foreword by Dionne Warwick. This is a second expanded edition book. Um, this is what the book looks like. Then on the back it has different pictures of Ludie Montgomery, Tammy Terrell, and many others. Now, on the front, it says my personal account of my only sibling, Tammy Terrell's short but fully lived existence. Her solo hits and masterful hit making duets alongside Marvin Gaye continue to uplift and inspire new generations of music lovers. And this is from Ludie H. Montgomery. Now, I don't know what happened. I guess due to I'm guessing from my own thoughts that maybe the first copy of the book was sold out or something happened. So they decided to switch the cover up and do a second or a second version of the book, adding a lot more. Because I remember years ago, I'm guessing it was like around 2000 and 2012, 13, maybe 14. No, I'm guessing probably like around 2013 or maybe 14, maybe 2015. I went to the library in North Philly, and I think it was like further down on Lehigh, and I was looking through all the books, looking through all the books, and of course I knew who Tammi Terrell was, and I heard her story on TV and heard her songs, but never got a chance to get out. Probably around that time, I didn't even know that there was a book out about her life. Up until I was just looking, and then I seen her picture, one of her pictures on the book. So I just happened to read it, and I kept telling myself I was gonna get my own copy, and I had the original copy of the book, um, but I don't know what happened. So I had to get me a whole nother copy, and this is my second copy of the book, just with a whole nother book cover, and I got this from off of eBay. I don't know what happened that made them want to switch the book covers up or whatever. Or maybe this book would tell a lot more that they wanted to add to. I don't know. So it says authors know to our readers to stay consistent with the names that Tammi used throughout her life and career. We allowed the spelling to reflect when people first met her. As people share their memories, they address her as they knew her. She was always Tommie to her family and or Thomasina to most of her childhood friends. In her teens, she was Tammy, spelled with a Y, and then Tammy, spelled with an I, as a young adult. Therefore, Tommy, Thomasina, Tammy with a Y, and Tammy with an I are all one and the same. Forward, Tammy, a beautiful spirit, a kind and loving heart, a multitude of talents, and a dear friend sums up my thoughts of this dear one. She always had a smile for all to see and always looked for the good in everything and everyone. To have been called away so young is something that will always be a wonder, but then we cannot put a question mark where God puts a period. Yes, I miss my friend, but knowing she is now without pain and suffering and is more again whole makes it a bit easier to accept. When I heard of her transition, I said God must have needed another pure voice for his heavenly choir. For those who did not know her, prepare to be informed. For those of us who had the privilege of knowing her, prepare to relive and enjoy the life of Tammi Terrell. And that was by Dionne Warwick. Now, from my understanding, I didn't know they were friends or anything, but from my understanding, I know that Dionne Warwick did a cover of If You See Bill. Now, I'm guessing Tammy may have done it first, and then Dionne Warwick did her version, or however that story may go. I'm pretty sure all of these women were Motown artists or they worked for the same companies and stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they were friends and they known of each other. Author's edition by Ludie Montgomery. Author's introduction by Ludie Montgomery. This book has been in my heart and mind for many years. Only recently I have been able to concentrate my time and energy and actually bring it to fruition. Once people knew the beginning, it will explain so much and clear up some of the misunderstandings about Tommie and her life. Hold on, let me check something real quick. nothing. I began writing poetry over 20 years ago at the height of my mother's illness. It allowed me to express my pain and elevate the anguish. You are at your creative peak when you are depressed. My mother used to take us to the park. I like to go there now to sit, be quiet, and meditate. I wrote a lot of my book at Valley Green in Fairmount Park. So yeah, y'all still in Philly. I prayed a lot there as well. When you write, you want your memories to have the same emotions as when you experience them. I want the reader to understand what I felt. I wrote this from what was once a shattered place in me. This was a hurt that was so deep that it lasted for many, many years. It comes back for me when I write and talk about the past. Reliving these memories was excruciating at times. I knew doing this was for my own healing, and writing this story has brought me closure. I believe Tommie's legacy needs a healing, and I want to secure that for her by creating this work. I went through a period of time where I could not look at pictures or listen to Tommie's music. Hearing her voice distressed me. Now I can look through our family history and smile. I hear her music and I feel good. I know she is with me always. For myself and those who knew her, we talk about her as if it were yesterday. For us, she is frozen in time. My strength comes from God. Every person has to stand with God alone and accept whatever it is He leads you through. You cannot move forward until you deal with, examine, excavate, or eliminate past hurts, no matter who you are. Thank God I read Healing the Child Within. This book is a catalyst for my healing process. You have to forgive yourself, the past, and forgive all people. Most of all, you have to forgive God. I had so much anger even at God when Tommie died. I learned to let go of the resentments and I learned how to deal with my emotional pain and heal the past. Tammy and I, or Tommie, as I finally refer to her, were inseparable. She was my alter ego. Believe me, it's terribly difficult to live without her. After finally coming to grips with my own emotions, I want to tell this story in its entirety. I want to let the world know one of the greatest people I have ever known, Tommie, my sister, who was known to the world as Tammi Terrell. She was a real soldier. This story is not meant to be an exhaustive or a lengthy one. Rather, it is a true, sincere history of my sister who lived only 24 years. She was a prodigy from the beginning. You will not read the glitz and glamour on which most celebrity stories expand. What you will read on these pages is not often pleasant. There are good times in the early years of her career. Oh, it said there were, I'm sorry. She accomplished so much. I tell this with a pure, simplistic viewpoint to give my account of my only sibling's short but fully lived existence. And that's from Ludie H. Montgomery. Then you have the co-writer's introduction by Vickie Wright. I don't know if all this is important to read, but All right, I'm not about to read all of that. I'm about to get to the book, or at least try to. Prologue. The days that followed my sister's death on March 16th, 1970, were some of the hardest times of my young life, or at least I thought. The years ahead became so devastating for me that it's taken me this long to finally put my life back together. Now I can begin to tell my sister's story from beginning to end. Before Tommie's death, I felt my family was living in a bubble of constant pain. First with my mother's illness, then with Tommie. I know that many people dearly love Tommie and that she is adored the world over. My sister's legacy now lies in my hands. I've had to find the courage and strength to finish this not only for Tommie, but also for myself, my family, and the millions of fans who love her so much. It is my hope that this will become a healing tool for others who find themselves lost in grief or suffering with trials. The week of March 16, 1970 is a blur now, and I have blocked most of it out of my memory. I knew I really lost it when I was alone with Tommie prior to her funeral. I was to take care of her makeup. I knew how she liked her makeup done, so I applied it for her. I talked to her and just talked crazy for a few hours. I don't know what I said to her, but I know it was nonsense and babble. I told Vickie that she would have to find others who were there to share their stories. I will share what little I can remember from that day. After I began working on this book, I asked some of my friends to please tell me more about my sister's funeral. The reflections here are some of my own and what others have shared with me about that week and the day we said goodbye to Tommie. I do remember that there was a sea of people in the streets, and the umbrellas were endless in every direction looking out from the church. People were crying in the rain, and I did not understand why they came. I was astonished that millions of people came out to say goodbye. She was my sister, and I was in complete grief and devastation. Who were these people? Why were they here? Did they love her as much as I do? I have come to learn and realize that they did love her, and they have all along. On March 20th, 1970, the funeral was held at James United Methodist Church on Haynes Street. Reverend Henry Nichols officiated the eulogy service. If y'all from Philadelphia, y'all should know where that's at. All my Philadelphia people that may come across this video, y'all should know where that's at. I'm pretty sure the church is still there. But then again, with all this shit going on in Philly, y'all probably won't want to. The solemn and devastated Marvin Gaye spoke to the sea of mourners inside the church. His voice was exceedingly distraught, and he cried buckets of tears all the way through his speech. I do recall crying more and more because Marvin was crying so much. I would try to keep it together and then lose it because he was so distraught. Marvin thanked the Montgomery family for sharing their daughter with him. Marvin Gaye and Tammi Terrell were the prince and princess of a fairy tale love story. They shared a deep love and friendship. Marvin spoke of their friendship bond and the good times they spent together. He said, if you want to know the depth of our loving friendship, just listen to any of our records. The love is in there. Tommie was his dear and true friend, his soulmate. Marvin was a trooper that day, and he shared his feelings of love and adoration for her. He took his place like a prince right beside Tommie in our family. Marvin's final words were, "Good night, Tammy." There were more flowers for Tommie than the eye could see. Tommie had so many friends. The, the presence of Motown was everywhere. There were many Motown artists in attendance, and for the ones who were not in attendance, there were flowers from all of them too. There were enormous bouquet, bouquets. Sorry, I keep saying that wrong. From the Supremes, the Temptations, the Four Tops, and Mary Wells. A telegram from Tammy's dear friend Aretha Franklin was read. Aretha expressed to our family what a dear friend she had lost. A good majority of the people there were from our neighborhood. There were families who knew us and others we had ex- attended school with. Many were associates of my father. There were so many people associated with Tommie's career. So many fans showed up. The church was packed full of people who came out in the rain that day to say goodbye to Tammi Terrell. I knew Philly was big, and it certainly seemed like seemed the entire town was there. My memory whispers of my father and the fact that he was just not happy that day. He was not thrilled with some of the people in there. This was our family's grief, and it was personal grief. Daddy did not like the attention being drawn to our tragedy. He did not like the fact that we were under the eye of the public and media. My father did not want to share his grief with anyone in this manner so publicly. Reverend Nichols kept addressing the crowd to settle down and kept the media in line and in order. There was a woman who was so devastated and several times interrupted the ceremony very loudly. She was escorted out quickly with torrents of screams and cries. Dr. Garrett, Tommie's fiance, had his hands full. He came up from New Jersey to tend to funeral matters. He was there for my family all week and he helped out. Dr. Garrett had a sedate mother, Dolores, and me. We were so distraught. Daddy called Dolores in Detroit earlier in the week and said, "My baby's gone. I need you to come be with the family." Dolores was like Tommie's sister, and she was her best friend. Alice was a pillar of strength, as always, and she made it through the ceremony. The night our house that night our house was full of people. There were media, DJs, neighbors, friends, and family in our home. This was a 2.5 year ordeal for our family. It was overwhelming for us. Tammy came home on October of 1967, and we lost her on March 1970. Our long road ended in the saddest way possible. I want to tell you how we got from there to here and what happened before and after Tommie died. I went up to our room that night, the same room I shared with Tommie for most of my life. I laid across our bed and the thoughts and memories came pouring out like a flood of tidal waves. I stayed in our room thinking about our lives together, thinking. I must add that there are several different pictures of Tammi Terrell, family members, friends, and stuff like that throughout this book. Like I say in many other videos, I don't share the photos that's inside the book. I just read the story as best as I can. If I can relate to something or if I have an opinion about something, I will take a break and speak about it. But this is a good book, and I suggest that all Tammi Terrell fans, Motown fans, Marvin Gaye fans, and furthermore, when you get a chance, please purchase this book. I'm pretty sure you will love it just as much as I do. Like I said, I have read this book before. I'm guessing this is a new version of it. So I'm gonna try my best to get through this book, just like I'm gonna try my best to get through the other books that I have been reading. Chapter 1: The Visitation. Our parents are Thomas and Jenny Montgomery. Both were born in South Carolina and came to Philly in the 1940s to seek job opportunities. Daddy was a strong man who provided well for his family. He was a hardworking sharecropper son. Daddy saved his money and put himself through school. After he graduated from Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina, he did not want to work on a farm, so he came to Philadelphia. Daddy once told me that his family was so poor when he was growing up that he and his brother Bob became the mules on the farm that had to literally pull the plow. South Carolina, Carolus, is a Latin form of the name Charles. The colony was founded under a charter from Charles I of England. North and South Carolina traced their names to him. North Carolina included the settlements of Virginia, while South Carolina included Charlestown and other settlements, specifically Sumter, South Carolina, our grandparents' home on our dad's side. The warm climate and fertile soil encouraged tobacco and cotton farming. Large plantations developed which were worked by indentured servants and Negro slaves, of which our great great grandfather was one. Our grandfather, Pop Oscar, was born free but remained in Sumter and became what was known as a sharecropper. In this, my friends, is a South Carolina connection that is so memorable to me. My father was a large man who was always well grown. He was very neat and never without a shirt and tie. My daddy was involved in so many things, from politics to the barbershop he owned, in addition to being the war leader of two wars in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the 14th and 20th War. He was a Mason and the exalted ruler of the Chris J. Perry Elks Lodge. My father was employed by the Traffic Court of Philadelphia for many years. Daddy was very visual in our community. He helped a lot of people and was instrumental in them getting jobs. He also held a position on the Pennsylvania Boxing Commission until his death. My father worked hard at everything, therefore providing well for our family. He made a good life for us in Philadelphia. I would have to say my father was emotionally unavailable to us most of the time. My father was not family oriented with his emotions. He really wasn't. He loved his family very much, but he had other interests that seemed to always be his priority. Daddy had his own mindset, and I think that mommy being ill interfered with whatever he wanted or needed to do. Both Daddy and Tommy had to be out there with everyone and be where the action was. They were very popular, charismatic, and extroverted, with spirited personalities. They had to be seen and stand on center stage all the time. He and Tommy liked to go places and do so much. They were always on the move. Those two were never sedentary. Both of them wanted to be involved in everything there was. Tommy and Daddy were very, very much alike. She was indeed my father's daughter, and very much like Daddy. She did her own thing, not in a selfish way, but in a way where they were very driven and disciplined in certain areas and displayed uncanny conviction. The mundane took a backseat. They were living for their goal and dreams, so their focus was on those goals they were destined to follow. Our dad's only brother was none other than lightweight champion of the world Bob Montgomery, better known as Bobcat Montgomery. Do anybody know who that is? I'm pretty sure if you from Philadelphia, you might know if you were born around that time. In 1943 and 1947, our Uncle Bob held the coveted title. The COVID, the what? Our Uncle Bob held this coveted title. Or coveted. Uh, I'm sorry. Our dad managed his career for several years and was on the road with him when we were young children. Uncle Bob was his champ or star of the family until my sister Tommie came along. My mother was a dreamer, a poet, and an actress. She was a free spirit. She was a very beautiful woman. Mommy was tiny. She was only 5 feet tall. Mother was the heart of our family. She was class valedictorian at her college, and she went to school in Columbia, South Carolina. Prior to marriage and children, she pursued acting in her younger years. Mother performed in recitals, plays, and delivered monologues. My mother performed William Walton's Belshazzar's feast on many occasions. She would recite the historical monologue at churches, halls, and receptions. Our parents were older than our friends' parents. Both my mother and father had a previous marriage but had no children with their first spouses. They were married in 1944. Both my parents bought homes in Philadelphia prior to getting married to each other. My mom worked for a funeral director when she came to Philly. She was a practicing embalmer. Aunt Alice is my mother's sister and really our second mother. Alice substituted when our mother was ill and in the hospital. Alice was obsessive about tidying as far back as I can remember. Our house had to be immaculate from top to bottom. She was very meticulous, meticulous. I'm sorry, but I'm in that way. There was never a picture out of place or a wall. Or a dirty dish in the sink. On the wall or a dirty dish in the sink. I'm sorry. You would never see the place untidy or dusty from morning until night. She took care of the house, chores, cooking, tending to every detail. Everything. The windows and even the windowsills. That was our environment when we were children. I always played a big part in our upbringing, so you can imagine how much she filled in. Our mother understood and knew that people were individuals. She let you do your own thing. She believed in to each his own and let your consent be your guide. She lived by these values and taught them to Tommie and me. This is why she allowed Tommie to pursue different goals at such an early age. She encouraged her to have that creativity as an outlet. Deep down, I believe Tommie's dreams had once been our mother's dreams. My mother was sick and unable to say no when it came to Tommie's dreams, and her pursuit of those dreams. She let her have them. Aunt Alice, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of our mom. She thinks everyone should be just like her and doesn't realize that people are different. Tommie would relate to me in later years that Aunt Alice is the matriarch of the family. I saw her as domineering. She ran our home with an iron fist. She was ornery and cantankerous. Although my aunt and I have been at battle for some 45 years, Tommie did have her way with her. Tommie didn't let anyone push her around, and I think she was more of an equal to Aunt Alice because she stood up to her. Tommie had that gift with people, even as a child, where she could handle just about anyone. I never had that quality. I'm still learning to handle people and understand others. It came naturally for Tommie to deal with people personalities. If they were difficult, Tommie could always find a way to get through to them. At, at 6 every night, Alice would call us sh- in a shrill tone, Ludie, Thomasina. Both of us would saunter up from the backyard. Dinner time was a smorgasbord. Alice was a garment in the kitchen. A gourmet in the kitchen. I'm sorry. Our aunt was the cook for the freezes. A wealthy family in Philadelphia. Whatever their family ate, we ate. Our Alice gained wonderful benefits from working for the freezers. Some night dinner would be filet mignon, and other nights lobster Newburg and potatoes au gratin or au gratin, whatever. Alice would say, "Girls, we're eating good. She made sure her babies were taken care of and eating well while mommy was in the hospital. Our grandparents on my mom's side were Clarence and Ludie Graham. They had three children. Grandma Ludie's mother was an Indian woman named Archie. She was an unusually small woman who smoked a corncob pipe. We call her Gemachi. My father's parents were Oscar and Jamie. They had 9 children. Grandpa Oscar lived to be in his 90s and survived with a goiter in his neck without ever letting any doctor touch him. There certainly is much to be said about this kind of medicine. My sister was born Thomasina Winifred Montgomery on April 29, 1945, and I was born Ludie Hortense Montgomery on September, almost 5 years later. In September, almost 5 years later. Tommie was named after my father and Uncle Winifred. I was named after my grandmother, Ludie. My middle name came from a Jewish lady my mother knew. Tommie and I love to play dress up and get into Aunt Alice and Mommy's things, their makeup and clothes. Tommie was a mischievous child. She would get into trouble often and somehow get me blamed for resulting incidents. She was clever that way. Daddy had to be more strict with her because she could really get into devilment. She would get the spankings from daddy and I would get them from mommy. Neither one of us could escape Aunt Alice and her switches. My dad never had a reason to punish me. I was the obedient and more serious one. I would do my homework and most always listen. I wanted to be the obedient daughter and a good student. It was difficult for me in school, but I tried. Tommie was just so bold and daring, whereas I was shy and quiet. She was rebellious and she didn't understand the concept of behaving. She liked to play tricks and mess with mommy or her teacher's head. It never crossed my mind to play jokes on people, but that was Tommy. She was always playing pranks. She would instigate something, and if it was sour, she'd get in trouble and somehow would make me end up with the blame. I would hide in the bathroom, and she would stand outside and tell me mommy was going or was no longer looking for me. When I would open the door, there was mommy with the strap. Ah, I don't know why you opened the door knowing she was freaking. You already knew you was gonna get that licking. You already knew you was about to get that egg right. When we were very young, we lived on 13th Street in North Philly. Our house was a three-story brownstone, and it sat halfway within the block. There was a double door, a marble foyer, and vestibule, a rest, a vestibule, a vestibule. Uh, I don't know, with a leather and wood table for packages and letters. To the right was our living room. It was bright and airy, and we had a big flower oversized sofa with matching drapes. A gold embossed mirror was over the mantel of the fireplace. On the mantel sat an old antique clock that you had to wind up with the smallest key. Out from the living room and down the hall were our dining room and the small kitchen. A small doorway led to another room that served as our library. It was in this room where Tommie and I learned all about the Civil War, the Underground Railroad, the Spanish Inquisition, and the Boston Tea Party. There was a set of encyclopedias and childcraft books on the bookshelf. Tommie often read to me from these books. We learned important facts about history, such as Crispus Attucks, a black patriot and the first man killed in the Revolutionary War in 1770. He was of African American descent. Tommie would also read to me about Harriet Tubman, the abolitionist who was instrumental in the Underground Railroad. I also learned in this very room that Philadelphia, Pennsylvania was not only the city of brotherly love, but it served as the temporary capital of the United States for 10 years and was the center of colonial trade. Pennsylvania was settled by the Quakers, a persecuted religious group from England. One of I'm sorry, I'm reading this all wrong. The settlement was William Penn. Quakers believe much like our mother. Let your conscience be your guide. Be your guide. I'm sorry. Ugh. The Quakers not only refused to follow the Church of England, but often disobeyed the government. For example, they did not participate in the war. The Quakers needed a place where they would not be persecuted. Dr. Penn got some leverage and took a grant of land as payment for the debt. Thus, Penn's Woodlands was named and became Pennsylvania. The idea of religious freedom was respected in this state. The Indian population was also very friendly because Penn dealt with them honestly. Tommie read a lot and formed her own opinions early on in life. Not that she was a nerdy type, Tommie would love to read romance books and magazines about love as well. She reveled in that stuff often at a young age. Even at a young age. I love to read Grimm's fairy tales. I thought a lot of the other stuff was too boring. Tommie caused a fire in our bedroom while reading one of those romance magazines. She had a foam pillow and it caught on fire because of the lamp she was using to read with. She propped the lamp under the blanket, reading it, and it caught the pillow on fire. There was billowing black smoke everywhere, and the pillow burned and smelled like a rubber tire. She tried to blame that one on me too, but it didn't work that time. Upstairs was the room where mom and dad slept. It was big, bright, and nicely furnished with twin beds. Tommie and I had a small room with just one bed for the both of us, a small chair, and one window. We had an adjoining bedroom with our parents. Our father's Old Spice cologne would be the smell that hit me when I went to my parents' room. In or in the bathroom. Mommy didn't wear any particular fragrance. She did use wild root hair cream, which created a nice scent in her locks and also made them soft and shiny. Daddy brought the cream from his barbershop. There was two more rooms on this floor. Big John, one of Daddy's barbers, rented a room. Rankin, who was also a boxer, who Daddy had managed, rented the entire third floor. Rankin's room was filled with pictures and memorabilia of fire from one end of the room to the other. We loved it when Daddy took us up to the Rankin's part of the house. Going up to Rankin's was always a memorable experience. It was a real fire's apartment. The smell of cigar smoke and the thunderous sound our father made when he climbed the steps made it mysterious for us. There's a lot to read within this chapter. There are several black-owned businesses that thrive in this section of town. Some of my first memories were of Eddie's Fish Market. It was painted bright yellow. Big, strong men would bring in crates of fish and vegetables. Eddie would hose off the dish daily. Nothing was as good as his silver trout. I loved seafood my entire life. Tommie, on the other hand, loved steak. Then there was Brown's Rarity Store where we got our daily supply of candy. Dr. White's office was nearby and was meticulously sterile. There was a drugstore that was operated by a color pharmacist, as my dad referred to him. During this time, Daddy owned his first barber shop on Kamek and Diamond. Men congregated regularly to discuss the day's politics and play a number. I love my visits to his shop. I like to watch the barber shave the men and hear the scraping of the blade over their rough whiskers. He employed about 8 barbers during this time. Daddy's employees were were our friends and neighbors. Two of Daddy's barbers were my and Tommie's godfather. Harold Pete was Tommie's, and Uncle Roy was mine. One of Daddy's sisters, Aunt May, lived in an apartment above the shop with her husband and 4 children. Our cousin Marshall is May's oldest son, and he and Tommie were inseparable during this time. Included in our neighborhood were hordes of friends that Tommie accumulated. Tommie always had a lot of friends her entire life. There was Beverly, also known as Boo Boo, Arlene, Carol, Dana, and Levi, to name a few. I only had a few friends. There was Muggsy, he was Rankin's nephew. Then there was Arlene's sister Mickey. She was blonde, but was cheerful and pleasant to be around. I had so many great memories from childhood. One autumn evening, our lives seemed to be taken into a different dimension. I had this memory so distantly embedded in my mind, I would never forget it. Daddy had come home loaded with some toys for us and with candy for his sweetheart, Jeannie. It was a chilly night and the leaves were beginning to turn orange and gold. We all ate dinner and Daddy insisted that Tommy and I go to bed early, so we did. The strangest feeling awakened me. It was colder than usual in our bedroom that night. Tommy, Tommy, I whispered. She didn't budge. Tommy. Still no response. I huddled deeper into her side of the bed. Then I looked up and could not believe what I saw. Then I looked up and couldn't. I'm sorry. I screamed and called for mommy as loud as I could. Mommy ran to our door and she saw it too. She screamed, Tom, 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 hurry. Dad came in and he turned on the lights, but the lady had disappeared. He wanted to know what happened. My mother explained, Tom, there was a woman in a white gown sitting in the chair over Tommy. A very tall woman sitting in a chair on the bed right over her. When you hit the light, she disappeared. Oh my God, Tom, what it was it? He couldn't answer her. I just looked at each of them back and forth and then at Tommy. She was still asleep. Mommy hugged me and rubbed my back. I believe now that was an angel watching over Tommy and perhaps our whole family, and especially my mother at that time. We both needed an angel. Mom's illness overlapped with Tommy's illness and her death. I never forgotten this angelic vision. She was a Sati being, uh, anyhow, with a flowing gown, and she was towered over Tommy. I know this was an angel watching over them. Tommy never did see her. Things were sort of quiet around our house after that. A few months after this incident, Tommy and I were playing in the upstairs hallway when Mommy stumbled from her bedroom. She appeared to be disoriented, and we could tell something was very much out of the ordinary. Tommy yelled at me, go catch her. Then I said, you go catch her. After a minute of arguing about who was going to catch her, bam, she fell to the floor, hard on her face. We went screaming through the house. Mom was rushed to the hospital, and we did not see her for months to come. Mom had a very lengthy stay in the hospital. My mother took me to see her. My father took me to see her. We went to a place in Chestnut Hill. It was awful. Tommy was not with us this particular time. She was in school. I remember my mother had two pigtails and she was behind a barred fence. They came and opened the gate and we went to into my mother's room. This hospital is where my mother received electric shock treatments for her depression. I found out when I was older that this was a mental institution. Yikes. I know about them. I never been in one, but somebody almost tried to send me to one. Once I had been an adult, I have come to understand my mother's illness. When we were younger, and even as young adults, we did not know. For both Tommie and myself, it was a mystery that was wrong with our mom. All we knew was that she was sick and we missed her all of the time. I have talked to my mother's doctors and psychiatrists as an adult, and she may have been misdiagnosed all those years. She may have had an aneurysm when we were children, and they were treating her for the depression instead. Diagnosed with clinical depression, our mother suffered from severe headaches the majority of the time. They did not discover her as as having a brain aneurysm at that time. I truly believe that what happened to our mother probably occurred with many people more times than we would like to believe during the 1940s and 1950s. Mom was treated for this debilitating disease, and the doctors failed to dig deeper and look at the physical symptoms. That's crazy because throughout my childhood, no, I think if I could fully remember, I think the first time I remember having a really, really crazy headache, I remember it was sometime after my great grandmother passed away. And my great grandmother passed away in 2004. And I remember we were staying, we didn't moved out of North Philly, and we were staying at my great grandparents' house until my mom found a house in Southwest. And the crazy thing about it is, not only were we staying at my great grandparents' house, me, my mom, and my brothers, but my aunt Trina and her children, and I believe my uncle Albert was staying there as well. I think we stayed, if I can remember, I think we stayed in the family room in the basement. My aunt Trina and them stayed in the room in the garage, if I could fully remember. And then my cousin Quetta, who stayed with my great grandparents most of the time, even when my great grandma was alive, she had her bedroom upstairs. And around that time, a lot of us children was not allowed upstairs. Yeah, coming home from school, we was up there to do homework or to eat or whatever. But after that, it was so many people there that we had to stay down in the basement, and I did not like it at all. So I would try to stay the night at my aunt Denise's house or stay the night at my uncle Benny's house. I didn't like it because I felt like I was old enough to be treated just like my older siblings who was able to stay upstairs. But I don't know. I just ain't like being stuck down the basement because, like I said, there's a lot of family there and they wanted to watch shit that I didn't want to watch. I wanted to watch music videos. Everybody else wanted to watch cartoons and movies. So every chance I got, I would just ask my Uncle Benny, could I spend the night at his house? Or I would go up the street to my Aunt Denise's house. And I remember one time I had this crazy, crazy, crazy headache. I don't know where it came from because I don't really remember having too many headaches any time before that. But I just had this crazy headache, and I remember we used to go to a shopping bag to go food shopping, whatever. And they used to have these nice sized cartons of or these jugs of Minute Maid. It'd be like fruit punch and many other different flavors. And I just remember always asking my mom, "Can I get one?" Because they taste so good. Like that was my favorite drink at the time. And every time I went there, I would always want my own. So I remember asking, "Can somebody go to the store and get me some medicine and get me my own carton of juice?" And I just kept crying, like not crying all loud and dramatic, but like crying to myself. And I just kept saying, "My head hurt, my head hurt, my head hurt. I got a headache. I'm starting to feel dizzy, and I feel like I gotta throw up." Like that's the first time I remember ever like really having a real serious headache. And then as I got older and I was in school, like years later, my great grandma and my great grandfather, they both was deceased around that time. I mean, like years later, like by the time I was becoming an adult, I'm like probably like 16, 17, maybe 18. I kept having these headaches in school, and people would feel like that I was lying, like I was trying to get out of schoolwork and stuff, but I really was having headaches. I was getting sick all the time. I was throwing up. My dad had to keep coming to the school to pick me up, or staff members had to drop me off home wherever I was living at the time. And another time, I remember one of the behavior staff had to drive me home, and now this time I was living in Southwest. We moved to Dewey Street, and it was to the point where they dropped me off, and it wasn't like, oh, they was going to drop me off and they was going to lift me up in the house because I was super sick. Like I got out the car, everything, and I just laid right on the front steps. I think my older brother came to get me up. Somebody, all I know is I just laid on the front steps. Like I didn't never go in the house. I just laid right there on the steps outside in front of whoever. I didn't care. I was so sick. But eventually somebody came to get me and make sure I got in the house safe. Then like it got to a point where I was always in the nurse and always saying I got a headache and getting sick. That my nurse, I forgot her name, but my nurse at the time, she sent me some papers and told me to show my mom or my dad, but I would always give my mom the papers. And she was saying that I keep complaining about headaches. Maybe I need to go get checked out. And from that moment on, I got my brain surgery. Come to find out that I had a leakage in my brain that I knew nothing about. I had to get an MRI and everything, and I knew nothing about it. I then went to the doctors, had checkups and everything, and from my understanding, I never got no MRI or nothing up until that time. And then my dad, he kept like I didn't know why I was going to school anyway. If I was going to be picked up early, I felt like it wasn't no point. I go, let's go on the bus, and then next thing you know, my dad would just pop up out of nowhere, and I had doctor appointments leading to my brain surgery, and that was that. And I can't say that the same thing that was happening with Tammy Terrell and her mother is what happened to me, but yeah, I had to have brain surgery. I still got the scar on the back of my neck. I had to have brain surgery. I had a leakage in my brain. And I remember plenty of times going to like doctor appointments and wherever else I was going. And somebody, what was it, a nurse or whoever he was, he would take like a safety pin and he'd keep rubbing it against my finger, asking me, do I feel anything? And he'd keep saying that like there's a possibility that I could lose my vision. I probably won't be able to taste nothing. I probably won't be able to feel nothing. And I kept moving my finger away because I'm like, you're not about to poke no needle in my finger. Yes, I could feel it. I'm fine. But that's what I had to do leading up to my brain surgery. And I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't eating. My mood changed. I was just mad at everybody. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to be around nobody. I mean, yeah, family came, like my cousins, my aunt, my mom, my dad, and whoever else popped up at the hospital to make sure I was good. But I had a real funky mood. I tried not to show it as best as I could, but I didn't want to be around nobody, not even the doctors. I just wanted to be left alone. I ain't gonna lie, it was scary. Like every time they kept on trying to get me up out the bed, I started feeling dizzy. Like I started feeling like as soon as I got up out the bed, I just started feeling real lightheaded. My head was hurting. It just felt like the room was spinning. Like as I'm walking through the hallways, I'm just staring at pictures of people. I'm staring at the nurses. Like I just blacked out. Like I felt my body moving because of course I had to walk through the hallways, and I just blacked out until I just felt this like a gut punch where I felt like I had to throw up, but I had to be rushed back to the room. They kept on trying to get me to do activities like go to the computer room and walk through the hallways and walk up and down the steps and all types of stuff. Oh, it was irritating. I don't remember much because it was so many years ago, but I try to think about it and remember as much as I can. I, then what's here more sad is the day I left the hospital. Well, the day I was leaving the hospital, I found out my uncle Jesse died, or he was dying. And that same day was the last time I seen my uncle Robert. And this is people on my dad's side of the family. Like I said, the day I was leaving the hospital, I found out my uncle Jesse either died or was dying. And then that same day was the last time I seen my uncle Robert because he was in the car with my mom, my dad, and my cousin Antoine, my aunt Jackie's son. They all came and spent. I mean, to come pick me up from the hospital, and then sometime after, I found out my uncle Robert passed. I actually got two Uncle Roberts. I got one on my dad's side, and then I got one on on both dads, my biological and my stepfather. Now, my biological father, my Uncle Robert, he got shot. But let me get back to the story because I'm just telling all my business. Mom was treated for his debilitating disease, and the doctors failed to dig deeper and look at the physical symptoms. Ultimately, they treated her for depression. Many years later, we uncovered the true reasons for the headaches and nervousness. It was, in fact, an aneurysm. It was located in the frontal lobe of her brain. Our mother was ill our entire lives. I had to wrestle with the idea that Tommie's predicament was an inherited condition. After my mother died, I was tested for all of the aforementioned disabilities. It was uppermost in my mind that I should uh, have that done. Doctors found no abnormalities in my CAT scan REG. Grace is our cousin. We were then and still are extremely close. She is 3 years older than Tommie, and she said that our mom was sick even when she was a little girl because our mother was in and out of the hospital our entire lives. There were some last about her being in our eyes. In the end, it was an aneurysm that put her in a coma for 8 years. Damn. Being in a coma for 8 years. What the hell? I know this affected me as a person, and I know it affected Tommie. I regret we did not discuss our mother's illness when we had a chance. But soon Tommie was ill with a brain tumor, and we never had the chance to talk about mom like I wanted to. I internalized my mother's illness and felt I had to take care of her emotionally and be there for her. It was my internal duty, and I did it out of love. Tommie and Daddy did not obsess over mommy the way I did. I absorbed my mother's illness. It was Im- immobilizing for me. It occupied my daily thought processes and rendered me unable to concentrate on much else. I felt alone and depressed. I know that Tommie internalized mommy's illness. She had an outlet in music and singing. I think that she got from mother being sick. Excuse me. I think what she got from mother being sick is that you have to live life to the fullest, and life is short. It made her move towards her goal of entertaining, thus lessening the pain of life. Little did she know she would suffer a similar fate. If anyone lived in the moment and lived life fully, I can say it was Tommie. At a young age, she knew deep in her soul who she was. She tapped into that long before most people do. She searched for herself early in life, and I sometimes looked at her as if she was some type of involved being from another time and space. Tommie was advanced beyond her years. She dealt with mommy illness much more positively than I did. She put her energy into her singing and never focused on negative situations. I know it pained her though. She just buried that deep inside her and had a way of covering up that side of herself when she felt those feelings surface. The music is her release and outlet. She never lost her focus or drive to chase her dream. I carried the burden of mom being sick. It was quite a burden for young children to have. That is what we knew as children. The woman named A woman named Fanny who hired to care for us during the time mommy was away. Sorry, was hired. I said who hired. We were instructed to call her Aunt Fanny. She was a short, round lady who wore her hair in a bun and dressed in a white uniform. Aunt Fanny cleaned, washed, and arm fudged. She cooked the most absolutely hardest biscuits we had ever tasted, and the rest of her meals were comparable to those biscuits. Tommie always stayed in hot water with Aunt Fanny. She was placed on punishment more times than I like to remember. During one of our reluctant dinner times, Tommie and her little comrade me were playing ball with the hard biscuits. Aunt Fanny just entered the dining room, and I wasn't able to catch the biscuit Tommie threw it to me. It slammed right through the window and shattered the glass. That was it. Aunt Fanny grabbed Tommie by her hair and marched her upstairs for her punishment. Boy, did she scream. I could hear the whirling of the bell. I put my hands over my ears so I couldn't hear Tommie crying. Then I ran to hide in the powder room. Tommie had to stay in our room for the rest of the night. When Daddy came home after, I mean, when Daddy came home in the evening, he wanted to know why he hadn't seen his darling Tommie. Sorry, he hadn't seen his darling. Fanny had to tell him what happened. He demanded Tommie come downstairs. He then reprimanded, uh, reprimanded. I'm sorry, I keep reading wrong. Fanny and said if any severe punishment like this occurred again to his children, he would have to take different measures. My dad told her that the punishment of his children was his job, not hers. And Fanny just said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Montgomery. I thought I was doing the right thing." I told Tommie later that night all that was said. She and I laughed about it in bed before falling asleep in each other's arms. I played along while Tommie was in school. I was thrilled when a playmate came along to fill up the day. Muggsy was ranking the boxer's nephew. He came to live with him for a while. It was so nice to have another kid in the house. I went to kindergarten for half a day, and Tommie didn't get home until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Muggsy and I would spend the whole afternoon in the backyard playing with my dolls or making mud pies. It was love at first sight. I love having tea parties. I still have my little red tea set from when I was a child. Aunt Fanny was always within listening range, but Muggsy and I would sneak a kiss in the yard as we played for hours. One day, Tommie stayed home from school and spent the day playing with us. We played dress up. Tommie would put Dad's old jacket and hat. Would put on Dad's old jacket and had his pipe in her mouth. Muggsy wore another old hat and a smoking jacket. I had found some of Mommy's things: beads, necklaces, a dress, high heels, white gloves, and a flower hat. Tommie suggested that we looked so cute that we should get married. Well, that was fine with me because after spending so many afternoons with Muggsy, I was totally in love. Tommie performed the ceremony right in the yard. She had been in a wedding rehearsal and knew every detail of what to say to marry us. Tommie was just a cool kid. She was such a good preacher too. Muggsy and I kissed right on the lips after she announced we were husband and wife. I guess we were, and I guess we were still married, laughing, and never got divorced. My heart broke when Muggsy left and had to return home, but I love him always. All right, y'all. So I'm going to end that right then and there. I read for about an hour, 27 minutes, and something seconds. This is my first time reading. This is the second book I read today. I hope y'all like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, be notified, share my videos with your friends and family, and I'll get back to y'all later on.